We are live, and I screwed that one up. I thought I'd figured out a better introduction. It wasn't such a hard intro, but I messed it up. At least at least I know what I did wrong. I guess. I think. Anyways, I am Adam. This is Open Late, and today I am opening the Star Wars Vintage Collection Mandalorian N-1 Starfighter, which I think came out like 2 years ago. And I resisted, and I sort of fought the urge to get this ship. I love the N-1 Starfighter, like the Naboo Starfighter. And then when the Mandalorian got one in, I believe, season 2 of the Mandalorian, I was really, really, really excited about the ship. Star Wars is got so many cool ships and so many different sort of versions of the cool ships. But I wasn't a vintage collection collector then. I realized that I'm somewhat becoming a vintage collection collector by way of world building 1/18 stuff. And so this felt inevitable. So for me, the Mandalorian's N-1 Starfighter, I've been looking at this. I've been looking at the Micro Galaxy Squadron. I've been looking at the Lego version of this. I've been looking at the what's it called? The Star Wars Action Fleet, I think is what it's called. It's like a kid's line with like 3-inch figures or 3.5-inch figures, something like that. And I really like this ship. I really wanted a version of this ship. I couldn't really decide on which one I wanted. And ultimately ended up on this one because of Cyberzoic, really. If I'm being perfectly honest, I mean, Cyberzoic has sort of got me inspired to buy 1/18 scale figures, vehicles, accessories, play sets, like, kind of whenever I can find to build out a 1/18 scale world, as I don't really have anything in that scale. Most of what I collect is 1/12 scale, 6-inch scale. And so most of what I have as far as dios and accessories and just stuff is in that scale. But as a result of getting into Cyberzoic, which is a fantastic line, the dinosaurs are amazing. The figures and armor and stuff like that is about to arrive sooner rather than later. So I'm super hyped about that, super excited about that, and so I've been on this kind of 1/18 scale binge as of late, and so here we are. This is kind of where it started. So the Mandalorian with the blurg, I thought the blurg was sufficiently alien world like and dinosaur like that for Cyberzoic, he could sort of be a stand-in, and the Mandalorian was sort of a bonus. So that was sort of where I started with vintage collection. Actually, that's not true. That is not true. I actually bought the vintage collection Mandalorian because I love the Mandalorian. Really got excited about Star Wars again because of the Mandalorian. So I bought a bunch of Black Series figures that are Mandalorian. I actually have a carded Mandalorian vintage collection figure, which I kind of forgot about because it sits on a shelf unopened with some other random inbox stuff. But I got the blurg. it's great. It's fun. It's going to go well with Cyberzoic, and it's 1/18 scale, give or take. And so that's sort of where I started. And here I am now with another Mandalorian thing, and another Mandalorian figure. Now that's, season 1, and then there's full Beskar armor Mandalorian there from season 2, and I get a Grogu in there, tiny little Grogu, and a really, really cool ship. So there you go. The box is awesome. I mean, the vintage collection boxes, vintage by name, sort of vintage by aesthetic. You get this really sort of Kenner looking box with a Kenner logo on it, of course. Really, a callback to the original vintage figures, and some call outs to some of the details. You get a Mandalorian figure in there, and then sort of all the stuff that you get in the box there, and then this really, really nice Dio. It's simple, but very, very nice. I am, inspired by, this Dio to maybe do something similar, because they've done it so well, but they've done it so very simply. You get a nice sort of tiled concrete looking floor, and then some just very basic buildings with just a little bit of details on them and stuff like that. But it looks really, really good. And so I'm sort of inspired by that. Some tiny 1/18 scale trees, some little accessories, some boxes and bins and things like that, some columns. I kind of want to build something like this now, because I think it would work for Cyberzoic as well. But that's, for another day, and not tonight, obviously. On the top of the box, if we can see that, we get a little more, we get another picture of I gotta get this blurg out of the way. We get another picture of Mando working on the engine, with Grogu cheering him on there. That's on the top. On the bottom, a little bit of legalese, but not much. That's pretty much all there is. On the side, you'll have to take my word for it. Oh no, I can kind of get it in here. We've got an R5 unit, subbed in for Grogu. We've got the Mandalorian sort of mounting the weapons. On the other side, we get the Mandalorian in the cockpit, as well as the, working on the other engine. And then on the back, so that's the front, and on the back you get the same. No, is this the front? This is the front. And then on the back, you get essentially the same thing, just with the vintage collection logo up there, and a little bit of, this is of course sold in Canada, so I get French on mine. If you buy it somewhere else, it probably says something different up in that corner. But anyway, pretty simple, straightforward packaging. It's a big box. I suspect it's a fairly big ship, even though it's 1/18 scale. But let me go ahead and get this out of the box, because it's not really that great in the box. I am going to keep this box, I think. With stuff like this, when it's sort of bigger stuff, ships and vamps and stuff like that, I do tend to keep the boxes. More because they just look good. I mean, it just looks good. I don't need this box. I'm never going to do anything with it. I'll probably never sell this. This will probably sort of get played with and destroyed over time. But I'll still have the box. Okay. Okay, is anything gonna fall out? I don't think so. Okay, so something fell out, but not in a bad way. A couple things fell out. Okay, so there it is. Out of the box. We got tissue paper on a carded Mandalorian with the N-1 Starfighter sort of backing card. I think this is different than the one that I have on card, but I'm going to open this one anyway. Even though it's unpunched, I know that probably a lot of people would just leave this and keep this or whatever, but not me. That's going to get opened. And after I sort of get this thing all out of the box and get this guy out of the box, I think I'm probably going to open this guy too, because he's from The Mandalorian as well. So it made sense. Carson Teva, of course, Paul Sun Hyung Lee, Korean Canadian actor. Again, I bought this before I bought this, and because Canadian actor in Star Wars, who's a Star Wars fan, who's a toy collector, who just seems like a really, really cool guy. Had to get the Carson Teva figure as well. So I'll be opening that as well after I open up the ship and get it all put together. We get the instructions, and we get these really sort of classic Kenner-inspired graphics, as well. And pretty basic stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to figure it out without instructions, but it's good to have them nonetheless for little details like this. And I saw this somewhere else. There's a spot built into the ship where all the accessories actually slot in and fit in pretty much perfectly. So you kind of get storage for everything, which is great. I mean, having storage for all your accessories that that's not a bin somewhere is pretty cool. Really good base. This isn't just a tampo. This is actually sculpted and molded on. There's sort of a 3D logo on there, which is very, very cool. The rest of this is, of course, right here. And I'm going to try to pull it out, try to pull everything out without sort of just having it all collapse. The other piece of the base right there, which is going to go on just like that. I think this came out in 2023. So this is probably, just cardboard dust from being in the box for so long. The tail piece. So all molded in this sort of dark gray plastic, it seems. Oh, you know what? Not. Yeah, molded in a dark gray plastic, but then this piece is molded in more of a silver plastic. And then evidently sort of glued on. This piece is a little bit softer as well. You can see I can flex this piece. This piece is a little bit more rigid, but then there's some tampo, some paint on there as well. I don't know if that's supposed to be flat or if that's supposed to be up. But anyway, I don't care. That's just the tail piece. It's all going to fall out. Probably all going to fall out, but that's okay. There's the sort of main fuselage of the ship. Again, molded in that sort of pearly, silverish plastic, which I don't love. I mean, I don't love that sort of swirly, pearly plastic. I would much rather it be painted like this piece is. But, I think price would be pretty prohibitive if the whole thing was painted. I don't mind it. I think there's enough paint on the ship, with the tampo for the sort of graphics. I don't know, what are these, like markings? And then, the engine, not engine, internal bits are sort of painted. There's lots of silver paint on there to differentiate, the hull itself, the fuselage from sort of the internal bits. So yeah, looks really, really good. Some carbon scoring near the weapons and on the nose a little bit. Yeah, very cool. I want to play with it already. I should take it all out, put it together, and then play with it, I think. So I'm going to just continue on getting the pieces out. The wings, so the left and right and left, whichever you want to call them. They look very, very good. The bottom doesn't have much on them. Not much paint on that side, but as you can see on the top side, you get, for both of them, you get carbon scoring. You get some paint on there for the sort of decal. As much as I don't love this sort of swirly silver plastic, the contrast between the swirly plastic and then the painted actually kind of looks cool. I don't think it was like that in the show. I think it was more like all of the ship was kind of chrome. But this is a toy, so I'm not gonna knock, the people that sort of put all this together and had to figure out costing and all that kind of stuff. All right, what else have we got? Now we get into sort of the small parts. The engine exhaust things. I don't know what most of these parts are called, so I'll just pull them out and make up names for them, I suppose. I'm gonna go over an engine, maybe. I don't know. A stick. Teeny tiny Grogu. Man, he's small. It's basically a statue. He does have, painted feet. Sorry, I'm gonna adjust my camera once I get all the parts out here because it's sitting awkwardly. Hey, thumbs up. Painted feet, but not really 3D feet. I mean, they're just sort of flat on there. He's got his hands up. He's got the little that little ball from the top of the joystick lever thing from the Mandalorians. What's it called? Razor Crest, which looks like it's in Mandalorian and Grogu movie. I'm quite curious. I'm personally quite curious to see to what extent it's in there. I think I'm leaning towards it being maybe like a flashback type thing. So, maybe like a pre-Grogu Mandalorian thing where he's thinking of something that he did in his past. Two little plug things. I'm not sure. Oh, okay, I know what these are. And I'll get to them when I sort of get the ship together. Those will be something I'll look at. I forget. There's an additional part to the, not to the display, but there's a base. So if you want to display this not on the stand, you can display it on these little bits here. And I think this is, these are the other pieces, or another piece to that, and then the dome that Grogu sits in. So that'll go over there. So the opening of this, as you may have guessed, is a little bit a result of the fact that we got the trailer, the new trailer for Mandalorian and Grogu yesterday. I'm looking at all the pieces. I feel like I'm missing a piece. No, not missing it. It's over here. There it is. That's the one I was missing. As I said, somewhat inspired by the fact that we got the trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu, which I think looks fantastic. I don't typically watch trailers, but I'm really, really excited for this movie. And so as a result, I afforded myself the chance to watch, some clips. I wanted to see. I don't know. I've been excited for the movie since they announced it, and I just kind of wanted to see, what they were going to show in the trailer. And I think the trailer doesn't really give much away. We pretty much saw a lot of what we've seen before from The Mandalorian. And I think, I think it's going to be fun. And I like the the font that they've used for the the movie's logo, I guess, if you want to call it that. And so I'm very, very excited for the movie. And so as a result, here I am opening this thing up. Let me very, very quickly adjust my camera ever so slightly and just give myself a slightly better angle to work from. Easier said than done, I suppose. I got to figure out a quicker way, an easier way to do this. Yeah, is that okay? It's fine. That'll work. That's a much cleaner camera. Okay, there we go. So I've got all these pieces here. Let me just go ahead and get the base more or less out of the way. Let me go ahead and say hello to a couple of you that are in the chat. I know there's more people watching, but nobody seems to be chatting. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Good to have you all here. Brian said, I wonder if we'll see this ship in the movie. I don't know. I hope so. I hope the Razor Crest is in the movie. I have heard rumors that the Razor Crest is going to be in there, and that it's going to be either a different Razor Crest, or somebody's put the Razor Crest back together as a thank you or something. I don't know. We'll see. Open late and late to open. Exactly. It's it's a play on the title. No Chewing is here as well. Hello, buddy. Good to have you. Gabriel is here as well, hanging out, saying hello. Good to have you guys. While I build this, as I sort of, it's a little bit out of the ordinary for me to do 1/18 stuff. It's a little bit out of the ordinary for me to do Star Wars stuff. Not that I don't love Star Wars, but Star Wars is one of those things where I think if you're a Star Wars channel, you're a Star Wars channel through and through. And I'm not. I mean, I love Star Wars, massive fan of Star Wars, but not in the way that some other people are. And so I kind of leave the true fandom to other people, which sounds like a bit of a dig, and it is. But anyways, I'm gonna put the base together. I got these instructions, and they're pretty straightforward, but they're pretty boring for you to look at. So I'm gonna just sort of set these a little off camera here, and sort of build away as I go here. Now, if you are watching this, whether you're watching it live or on replay, not that anybody watches any of my videos on replay, I don't think. But do you guys collect Star Wars in some way? Do you do vintage collection? Do you do Black Series? Do you do Mafex? Like I said, I have Black Series, Mandalorian, and versions of Luke Skywalker. And then beyond that, now that Ross in the US has some of the Skeleton Crew stuff, I am hoping that some friends of mine can pick a couple of those up. And then I might have to fill out that wave, that team. But with vintage collection, I'm kind of just collecting random stuff that sort of works. That's just fun. And as I said, it's going to go with Cyberzoic. So, and then beyond that, the only thing that I have is the Bandai movie realization stuff. Basically, they take Star Wars stuff and they make it look like really Kurosawa style samurai. So I have the Mandalorian with Grogu. So the what, I can't remember what they call it, Ronin, but they don't what do they call it? Anyway, and that looks phenomenal. But as I'm not a Star Wars channel, I just opened that and enjoyed it and didn't do a review and didn't do anything with it. I just opened it and enjoyed it. I bought that at San Diego Comic-Con, actually. All right, so that just plugs in there. That just plugs in here. That nice satisfying click. We get the exhaust things that appear to be keyed. There we go. Those fit in nicely there. We get these two sort of weapon pieces that are just going to plug in on the bottom. I don't think there's a left and a right, but I should probably take a look before I put them on. They look pretty symmetrical to me, so I'm going to say there's no left and right. There's nothing on the instructions that indicate that they're left and right, so. The bottom, just that pearly sort of silver, does not look that great. If the whole ship looked like that, ugh. But the paint really does sort of hit just the right spots so that it works. Or at least for me, it does. The tail is going to go on. Now I imagine this is keyed as well. So that's going to... Oh! And this is... I saw this... Okay, now this doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't understand this, and feel free to explain this, but on the back where I'm going to plug in the tail, there is another hole. The little stick literally goes inside this hole, but I don't think it does anything. Unless it stabilizes it. Maybe that's what it is. Like, maybe that's what it's there for. I heard somebody suggest that maybe that's like a piece that the Jawas steal when they sort of take his ship apart. But I feel like you could just sculpt that on if you just needed that to stop this from rotating or something like that. But anyway, it's on there. I guess the tail can come off. I mean, it clips in. Oh, no, but it'll come off. Okay, so the tail will pop right off. So I guess maybe that's... Oh, but I just noticed, too, that if you take it out, there's sort of a hole in there. So there is... Now, is there a front and back to this? No, I don't think so. Yeah, it's asymmetrical, but I'm going to put it in this way because I want to. All right, so yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that detail is specifically from the show or anything like that, but it does add, some texture, inside there, and does prevent that tail from spinning around. Not that it would, because it is keyed, but this thing is way bigger than I thought. I actually need it to go on a stand, I think. So this is the little stand that it comes with, and then you get a bigger base, which will allow you to kind of move the ship around. Actually, I'm going to put it on the big one. Maybe? Yeah, because then I can have it sit kind of at an angle, or at least try to have it sit at an angle. Now I got to adjust my camera again. I thought I was safe. I thought I could... I thought I could get away with not having to go wide angle again, but I don't think that's going to happen. That's okay. Whatever. So there it is. I mean, it looks fantastic. I'm not going to lie. It looks really, really good. And it's thankfully not as massive as I thought it might be. Having just opened the Rattler, it's 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 small by comparison to the Rattler. Brian said no TVC for me. I got the occasional Black Series and have lots of Micro Galaxy. Yeah, Micro Galaxy is so cool. Like that reminds me of things that I would have loved as a kid. And it's a really, really cool scale to kind of collect things in, I think. But for me, ultimately, Micro Galaxy, it's kind of the playability. They would be great on the shelf, but I don't know what I would do with them as far as like playing with them. Whereas this, I feel like, is a little more interactive, and there's sort of more play features to it, and there's kind of more playability to it, if you want to sort of call it that or whatever. But that's, I mean, your mileage may vary. If you just display stuff and you want to have like a full display of Star Wars ships, Micro Galaxy is phenomenal. I love them. I just don't have the space even at that scale. And Brian says tons of 112 stuff from years ago. Yeah. No chewing. I dabble a lot, mostly Black Series, growing collection of TVC, some SH and MAFX, a little bit of everything. Maybe it triggers an action figure. No, there's no action features. That's the only thing that I feel like this should shoot something. Maybe that's just everybody's different. I know that like for a lot of people, like gimmicky play features like aren't cool for toys, for collector toys, but for me they're just toys. That's at the end of the day, like I want to play with them, and I really wish that when I'm sort of swooshing this around, that I could shoot something out of wherever. One thing that I think Lego Star Wars really did right is they put those sort of firing missiles on like everything. And as much as sometimes they make builds look weird, sometimes they hide them really well, and they sort of engineer the functionality really well to where you don't really notice them, and you can play with your Lego Star Wars stuff. Fun fact, this office that I'm in now, which is full of action figures now, was when we built the house full of Lego Star Wars. All the shelves that now have action figures all had Lego Star Wars. I had way too much Lego Star Wars. And I still have it. I just I sort of took all the sets apart and bagged them and put them away. Gabriel says mostly Black Series and SHF, no TVC, one Micro Galaxy Ghost, and a few original trilogy Hot Toys. So another good mix. And Gabriel says, and a lot of Star Wars Lego. Yeah, I have a lot of Star Wars Lego. There's not much in the way of Star Wars Lego that I would still want, to be perfectly honest. I've got sort of all the ships, all the main ships that I kind of want. All the main characters that I kind of want. There's things here and there that come out that I would like, that I see and don't have. I did not get the Razor Crest. I did not get the N-1 Starfighter. By that point, I'd kind of stopped buying Star Wars Lego. So and moved into just straight up action figures. Just don't bother building it. Just get straight to the point and play with your toys. But Star Wars Lego is still, I love it. I love it. Okay, so back to putting this thing together. We got this that goes on. Which way does this go on? Yeah, it goes on this way. How does it fit on here? Huh? Doesn't make sense. I need to look at the picture. I don't really see how this key's on here. Oh, there. Okay. So it goes on there, but it's, I mean, a lot of this stuff feels like it's designed to come off. So it feels like it's designed to go on, but still be removable so that you can, play with it, set up, a garage, or like a docking bay, I think is the word that I'm looking for. Okay, let's see here. What's going on? So interestingly enough, you get one of these pieces. So this piece can either go on here or it can go on here, but not both. You don't get two pieces. So you put it on one side or the other. I'm going to put it on this side today. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel like putting it on the other side. How does this go on? Not this way. It goes the other way. I had it upside down. Okay. Interesting. So the piece is asymmetrical, which means like the engine sort of detail and stuff is asymmetrical on the two of them, which is actually kind of cool. I like little details like that. I like that this ship feels very lived in. This feels very Star Wars to me. Star Wars ships always tend to be like dirty and grimy and carbon scoring and just filth. They're lived in. They're not polished and clean and brand new. And this is a perfect example of that. Okay, so to these little pieces here. So as I was saying, you get two of these pieces, and these occupy the same spot right on the top. So you either get this one, which is Grogu's little spot, and there's some what looks like kind of controls or a communication board or something like that there, and a little foot peg for him to stand on. I think, or at least that's what it looked like. There you go. And these are keyed as well, so you sort of put one or the other in there. And I don't have R5. I think it's R5. Is that right? Is it R5? This you can swap in. So when this piece comes out, this can go in place, and then the R5 astromech droid head will go on there. So you can have an astromech droid instead of Grogu, which is how the ship is designed. Like the N-1 Starfighter is designed to have an astromech co-pilot, I guess. And then this little dome, this adorable little plastic dome, is gonna go on just like so. So that little Grogu sorry about that. Bumping into the arm that my camera's on. Little Grogu sits in his little dome right there, looking adorable with his little ball that he plays with. This slides forward, not super far, but far enough that you would presumably be able to get a figure in there. It also, I think, would just pop off if you want it to. I don't think I want it to. I think I'm going to leave it for now. But this piece, this whole piece, I think maybe this has to pop off for this to get removed. So how do I remove this piece then? Let's take Grogu out for now. Maybe I can just break it right now. Okay, so this slides forward. No problem. Is there a spot when you slide it where it will just come off? I think it just comes off with... I think it just comes off with this. Okay, so that's what I think I'm doing wrong. I think it's meant to just come off with this whole piece. There. So this whole piece comes off or just opens up. Okay, just opens up. Doesn't have to come off. All right, we're not going to break it. And then, as I said, there's a compartment in here where you can store all of the Mandalorian's stuff. So, in order to show that, I, of course, have to open the Mandalorian. Why wouldn't I have to? So, let's get him open. And then I'll, as you can see right here, all the accessories that you get, the jetpack, vibro blade, the rifle, the spear, and the darksaber will all fit inside there. I think the pistol will just fit on his person, so no need to store that. Oh no, Bo-Katan. Here's the Mandalorian. As I said, the N-1 Starfighter card back. On the back, you get the call out to, the wave of figures that the sort of timing of this release corresponds to. Vintage Collection 292 for anybody that's keeping track. Yeah, I mean, if you're a completionist of Vintage Collection, bless you. There's so many, and they're not all great. Some of them are kind of shit. Everything with Vintage Collection, it's weird because I collect 112 and because I collect a lot of like indie stuff. I almost forgot how Hasbro stuff kind of feels sometimes, and this stuff, yeah, it's okay. It's okay, but it's not nearly what I kind of have grown to expect from the indie guys, as far as plastic, as far as hand feel, as far as paint apps and all that kind of stuff. But there's the Mandalorian. I mean, it looks good, it looks great. In 1/18th scale, it's hard to do something that is sort of a one-to-one live action thing. Like, you can kind of get away with, I don't know, you can kind of get away in 1/18th scale with doing toys, but they don't look super realistic. They never will. I mean, I just don't think you have, the room. Like, it's you have a small palette to work with, I guess, is the easiest way to sort of explain it. And all the joints are smaller, and so they're tighter, and they don't move as well, and on and on and on. I'm not, 1/18th scale is super fun because it feels like a toy. They feel like toys. I'll put him right so he's right in front of his card back because I don't need him at the moment. They feel like toys, and that's great because what I want is the ships and the blurgs and the Dino Riders with Cyberzoic. Like, I don't need them to feel as good as like a SH Figure Arts figure. I want them to be toys. These are going to get played with. These are going to get sort of, as I said, swooshed around in the living room. And when we watch The Mandalorian, I love to have sort of representation of the figures and the characters and the ships and all that kind of stuff. So, but the accessories are soft and plastic, and this is really flexy. You can see, the thing just bends. which is fine for what it is. It's not awesome for it wouldn't be awesome if this is 1/12 scale. If this is something I was sort of displaying for the sake of the figures, there's not as many paint apps. There's the backpack, no paint apps at all, just sort of a silver metallic dark saber, which I now have a couple of. Paint apps on this are terrible. Bo-Katan's dark saber is probably the same. Yeah, same sculpt, but Bo-Katan's has a much cleaner paint job. But I have two, so anyway, this one's going to get stored in the ship. The vibro blade, as I said, right there, pretty small. And the pistol is going to go on his hip. And I think it could probably fit in the ship with the pistol on his hip. So that's going to be just fine. 1, 2, 3, 4. What am I missing? Oh, okay. So you don't actually get the rifle with the figure. I just realized that there's an asterisk. The rifle doesn't come with this figure, but I do have it with that figure. So I think I'm gonna leave it with him actually for now. And if I get another one, I can store it in here, but I'm not gonna store it in here. That threw me for a loop because I was trying to figure out where I was gonna put everything. And as I said, the diagram is good, but it's misleading because I thought I was gonna have to put the rifle in there as well, but I'm not going to. Yeah, this feels like a good way to lose these things in the ship. But they actually, I think they're going to kind of plug in here quite nicely. As long as I do it correctly. Well, that's going to go the other way, I think. I don't have the biggest hands, but I can't imagine if my hands were any bigger. Because this is not easy to get all these things in here. This must just go on the top. How does this fit in there? Yeah, so there you go. It'll stay in there. Yeah, it stays in there pretty good. I mean, that's clever to give you the storage for that. And I think once this is, clicked in here, yeah, it's not going to go anywhere. Where is it going to go? It can't fall out. Grogu back up on here. Slide that canopy open. Do I have to slide it open? Yes, I do. It's going to be a tight fit to get him in there. Oh, you know what? They have it. Okay, so this is what they're saying. They're suggesting in the instructions, which I did not look at this part. They're suggesting you pop this open, put him in. Which makes sense. So you put him into the ship with this open. Oh, it's cozy in there. There you go. Mandalorian in there, Grogu in there, all of his weapons stored in there. That's pretty cool. That is very cool, actually. You can get it all in there, get it all stored appropriately. Very, very cool. Okay. So that is the N-1 Starfighter. Now, I think I'm going to open Carson Teva as well, because I've had this in my pile of unopened figures for a while. I've been sort of waiting. I've been sort of going back and forth about whether I open this, on a video, do a video just for Carson Teva or not. I think for this, because I'm torn. Okay, so I'm gonna open Fennec Shand. And then I'll see how I'm feeling. I might open Carson Teva as well. I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe I want to do a video for Carson Teva, just like a separate video. But maybe not. Maybe I'll have a change of heart once I've got Fennec Shand opened. So there's the card back. This is, of course, a Book of Boba Fett figure, and you get some sort of Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian sort of crossover stuff here. So you get Mandalorian, Ahsoka Tano from Corvus, which is Mandalorian, Bo-Katan, which is Mandalorian, 501st, which is tied to Ahsoka. Fennec Shand is Book of Boba Fett, but introduced in Mandalorian. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of crossover between Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, which I'm okay with. I looking at the Book of Boba Fett as though it's sort of a bonus season of Mandalorian is I'm okay with that. I'm here for more Mandalorian, so now this is a figure that I, of course, have in Black Series since I have primarily Mandalorian figures in Black Series. And so I'm kind of curious to see if this is just a small version of that Black Series figure. Which it kind of feels like it is. Like the first thing that I noticed is that the rifle is more or less sculpted the same, but it's even got the sort of shape to the bandolier, so that when it goes over her shoulder, it has the right shape. It has a nice shape to sort of fit on the figure properly. Now, one thing that is different is with TVC in 1/18 scale, you have this weird thing where when they try to sculpt a helmet for the head, it looks too big. It looks goofy and it looks silly. And so instead of a helmet that goes on the head, we get a separate head that is sculpted. So it's the helmet sculpted. Now, because it's a separate helmet, you don't get the eyes. You can't see her eyes. It's just a molded plastic there, which is kind of a bummer. I would say that that's a little bit of a complaint, maybe a nitpick. At this scale, I don't know that you could necessarily do a really good job of sculpting that, so that's okay. But they did do something cool, so I'm gonna pop Fennec Shand's head off and point out that, actually, I'll just show this a little bit closer. Let's see if I can get it to focus on the head. So some nice detail, and to be honest, the sculpt at this scale is pretty bang on. Like, that's pretty good at 1/18 scale. This head is 2/3 of an inch tall, so to get anything on there is pretty impressive. The ponytail, though, this is interesting. The ponytail just plugs in to the back. It's got sort of a mushroom peg to it, and then that will plug in to the helmet, so that when the helmet is on, she still has the ponytail out the back, which I think is pretty clever. That would be a detail that I think would be kind of a serious faux pas to lose that, because it's kind of part of the design for her to have that braided um, hair as a feature almost. Along with the figure, along with the rifle that I already showed, you get the smaller blaster. It's not a pistol, but it's not a full-size rifle. The alternate hand, as I already showed, and then this little jug, which is really, really cool. I have a couple of the Navarro cantinas, so I'm pretty happy to get these little sort of additional things. Anybody that was complaining about the number of cups that came with the cantina, I will happily take your cups, because because that's the stuff that I really love. I love getting these little details that sort of help with the world building. Not a ton of, well, there's no paint apps to this, but there is detail to the sculpt. It has that sort of netting sculpted on it, as you do see in the show. So pretty cool. I think these are the little things that I love getting, just as little bonuses with the figures, that kind of just like make, I don't know, they sort of elevate these things from like a little kid's toy for me to more of something that sort of appeals to me as a 43-year-old action figure collector who typically does 1/12 scale. All right. Where are we at? We are at an hour. You know what? I think I'm gonna do Carson Teva as a separate video. I think he deserves it. I think he earned it. I think having to wait this long to get Carson Teva, what's a little bit more of a wait to get a proper video for him. So I think Carson Teva is gonna get his own video. An hour's good. An hour feels sort of comfortable. So that's the N-1 Starfighter Fennec Shand. These are very, very cool. I can't wait to sort of play with these. These are gonna, interact with some Cyberzoic dinos and interact with other Star Wars stuff. I hate to admit it, but I do have more vintage collection stuff to add, and to maybe do another vintage collection unboxing in the near future. But anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up there. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you don't want to miss future videos, hit that bell icon to get notifications. I will try to do these Wednesday night unboxings a little bit more regularly. I do have some Sunday videos planned too, but they're not super, like, I'm still not back to like every week. So if you don't want to miss those, hit the subscribe, the bell to get the notifications. As I always say, it is much more fun to open friends. So thank you guys for being here with me and hanging out while I open the N-1 Starfighter. Hopefully, you enjoyed this. If you don't have vintage collection stuff, hopefully this was fun. This sort of appeased your appetite. You don't have to go out and buy it like I did. Anyways, till next time, guys. Bye-bye.